exquisitely beautiful, and his instruction to them, Tam Udarata Machiram. You should marry her without wasting time. So generally, you won't find much resistance to such an instruction. If your girl is very beautiful and highly qualified, I want you to marry her without wasting time. So I don't generally see that many men have trouble following such an order, in my experience in the Krishna consciousness movement so far. But the point that Srila Prabhupada is particularly highlighting here is that he, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, asked them to do so not only because they were great devotees of himself, but also because they were very obedient to the orders of their father. Therefore, the Lord asked them to marry the daughter of Pramnocha. So because they were great devotees of the Supreme Lord, and also they were obedient to their father, therefore the Lord felt he can trust them with such a responsibility. I didn't get a chance to prepare for the class, so I didn't know I was going to give. So, the Supreme Lord wants to see this standard generally. Not only if we are surrendered to Him, but also how much we are surrendered to spiritual authority. I want to use the word spiritual authority, spiritual master or bona fide devotees. He wants to see that standard before he will agree to give any revelation. Yasya devi parabhaktir yata devi tata gurau tashyate katita yarta prakashante mahatmanaha. The Upanishads say that only unto that great soul, Mahatma, great souls, who has the same parabhakti, supreme devotion and faith for God and Guru, both, unto that great soul I will reveal everything. Ultimately, spiritual knowledge exists on the higher plane, so no one can actually attain it. Generally, we speak about devotional attainment, but ultimately, no one can actually attain spiritual life, devotional spiritual life. It has to come from the higher plane down. It cannot be actually attained. So the Supreme Lord has certain standards by which He will agree to give such revelation. So as mentioned, Mahatma, great soul, is he who has parabhakti for both the Supreme Lord and the devotee of the Lord. So it's a Mahatma, not an ordinary thing. It is easy to say I have parabhakti for the Supreme Lord. It's a little bit easier because it's quite imaginative, usually. Just like someone may say, I have devotion for Srila Prabhupada. I am surrendered to Prabhupada. I don't surrender to any of his disciples, though. Because they're not pure. I want to make sure I'm following a bona fide representative, pure guru. And Srila Prabhupada is the only pure guru anyone's ever known. So therefore I'm following Prabhupada. But it's easy to follow Prabhupada because he never speaks to you. That is an easy thing. The reason it's difficult to follow devotees is because they talk back. Same with the deities. It is easy to feel devotion to the deities because they don't talk back, they only smile at us. Right? So we can easily speculate that, Supreme Lord, I have some desire and I go before the Supreme Lord and I see that his smile has expanded. Of course, I always say that it's true his smile has expanded because he's laughing. Because he set a standard, Supreme Lord has set a standard, that if I shall give revelation to a person, then it's to that person great soul, it's a great soul, not an ordinary soul, who has parabhakti for both Guru and myself. So that is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam also. This is a very nice verse of the Bhagavatam, 11th canto, chapter 14, text 16. Nirapekshamunim shantam nirvairam samadarshanam anuvrajamyaham nityam puyayet yangri renubihi. So it is mentioned here that this is Krishna speaking to Uddhava. He says, I desire to purify myself. Puyayeti means purify. Anuvrajamyaham nityam. He says, I desire to purify myself. Actually, this word that is being used for myself, let me see here. Yeah, puyayeti, I may be purified. The idea is that he wants to purify this world, this universe, but the universe is within him. the universe is within him. So he wants to purify this universe, with the dust of the lotus feet of my devotees. Thus, I always follow the footsteps of my pure devotees, who are free from personal desire, nirupeksham. They are wrapped in thoughts of my pastimes, munim. They are peaceful, shantam. They are without envy, nirvairam. And they are samadarsham. They are seeing everything with equal eye. So I'll just read a little part here. This is very nice to illustrate the point that I'm trying to make. I'll just read it so I could explain it, but it may be more powerful to read it. So it says here, just as the devotees always follow the footsteps of Lord Krishna, similarly, Lord Krishna, being a devotee of his devotees, follows the footsteps of his devotees. A pure servitor of the Lord is always meditating on the pastimes of the Lord and considering how to assist the Lord in his mission. All the material universes are situated in Sri Krishna's body, as demonstrated to Arjuna, Mother Jasoda, and others. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore there is no question of impurity in the Lord. So the universe is within him. The universe is the repository of all impure things and impure living entities. I think we have personal experience. We're generally not so pure. So there are many like us in this material world. So generally the material world is the repository of all types of impure substances, and that material world is inside the Supreme Lord, as Mother Jasoda saw, or Arjuna also saw, and many others also saw. So the repository of all impure things is inside the Supreme Lord. But that doesn't mean the Supreme Lord becomes impure. That is what's being made. Point is being made here. Can you understand that point? That's the point that's being made here. Although the material world is the repository of all impure things, and inside the Supreme Lord is that material world, you cannot say he's become contaminated. Still, the Lord is speaking out of humility and saying, I'm desiring to purify myself. Because the material world is, so how I do that? So it's mentioned here. Still, the Lord desires to purify the universe situated within him by taking the dust of the lotus feet of his pure devotees. Without the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees, it is not possible to engage in pure devotional service, without which one cannot directly experience transcendental bliss. So Lord Krishna thought, this is Lord Krishna speaking, I have established this strict rule that one can enjoy my transcendental bliss only through devotional service obtained from the dust of the lotus feet of my devotees. Since I also desire to experience my own bliss, Krishna also wants to experience that, I will observe the standard procedure and accept the dust of my devotees' feet. I will also observe the standard procedure. So I remember this purport. It's a very nice purport. I also observe the standard procedure. He also wants to experience his own happiness, the happiness that is within himself. And he cannot do that. He can, of course, can do anything. But he feels that I have set up this strict rule that can only be experienced if one receives devotional service received from the pure devotees. So since I set up that rule, I also follow it. And so he also follows that rule. So Krishna has set up that standard, so he wants to see that standard follow. That's the point I'm getting from Prabhupada's purport. Because the Lord Vishnu could see that the Prachetas were not only surrendered to him, but they are also obedient to their father. Therefore, he trusted them with such a responsibility. So it's also mentioned, I don't have all the books with me. I need one of those. But I have also, but it's ran out of battery. In the end of the 5th canto, I don't remember the Sanskrit. It's nice to look at the Sanskrit sometimes with some of the words. Anyway, in the end of the 5th canto, chapter 6. No, is it chapter? I think it's chapter 6 of the 5th canto. Anyway, Krishna says, he describes, I very easily give mukti, and I very easily give bhukti. I don't mind. If someone is approaching me for bhukti or mukti, I easily give that. But bhakti, I don't give so easily. Because by bhakti, I'll be able to be controlled. So I'm not going to give it to any fool and rascal, because I don't know what he will do with that type of power. So I'm very reluctant. Karichit, this verse is quoted when it's described that devotional service is rarely achieved. It is rarely achieved for 2 reasons. One reason it is rarely achieved is because, and without being so attached to the Lord and completely devoid of material desires, hardly anyone cannot expect to get it. And also, even if you are completely attached to the Supreme Lord and completely without material desires, the Supreme Lord does not immediately give it. He's reluctant to give it because he becomes controlled by that devotion. So he wants to see certain things before he will agree to distribute such devotion. So the main thing he wants to see is this one standard which I'm mentioning here, this one standard. Just that if I want to experience the happiness within myself, I approach the lotus feet of pure devotee, because that's the standard I set up. So if I, the Supreme Lord, have to follow that standard, what about you? We are completely insignificant jivatmas. So we also want to follow that standard. So therefore it is mentioned, Aradhananam sarvesham, we quoted this verse before, Vishnu aradhanam param, tasma param taram devi, tadiyanam samarchanam, that of all forms of worship mentioned in the Vedas, worship of Vishnu is considered supreme. But Shiva said, but higher than that is the worship of the Tadiya. It means the devotee of the Lord in context. That is higher. And even Mahaprabhu says that worship of my devotee is even higher than worship of myself. It is mentioned in many places. So there's another verse that comes after that is a nice verse. That comes after this famous verse that we often hear. There's another verse that we don't often hear, but that is also very enlightening. Acharitva tu govinda tadiyan nachayet tu yaha. Nasa bhagavato geya kevalam dambika shmitaha. So as mentioned here, one who performs worship of Lord Govinda, acharita tu Govinda, but fails to worship his devotees, should be understood to be not a devotee of the Lord, but simply a victim of false pride. I mentioned. There comes the verse after that. Isn't it interesting? There are many heavy verses like that. I can read all of them to you, but I don't want to put you to sleep. I think you can catch the essence, the drift of what I'm saying. If he thinks I am worshiping Govinda, but he does not want to worship the devotees of Govinda, then he is understood not to be a devotee of Govinda, but simply a victim of false pride. So Krishna has set up that standard, and then if one shall wholeheartedly take that standard without duplicity, and without duplicity means thinking, I'll just like many devotees told me recently, I thought Mahaprabhu was just a means to attain Krishna. And then after that, all right, Mahaprabhu, see you later. Now I'm in Braj Leela. That is duplicitous. That is like I approach you. Just as a joke, I think it was you. I was sitting on his jacket, his vest, the other day, and he was taking prasadam. We were all taking prasadam. And then he had to leave, Then he said, Hare Krishna Prabhu. So I said, okay, Hare Krishna Prabhu. And he said, you're sitting in my vest, can you... So I gave him his vest. I said, I thought you were approaching me just to be, nice, humble Vaishnava. But actually you wanted something from me, so you were being very nice and humble. So we all started laughing about that. It appeared very, I was like, very nice. He's coming and just, give respects. Hare Krishna, see y'all later. Yeah, you're sitting on my vest. Can I get that? So, of course, that is not I'm not meaning to say that was duplicitous. I'm just highlighting that this mentality does come up, though, in our approach to the Supreme Lord or our approach to the devotees, that I see them only as means to an end. And then once I achieve my end, then Kikyo, this is the mentality of the Mayavadis that Prabhupada often commented about, that after they attain liberation, which is simply mental speculation, vimukti manina, they think they're liberated, and then bye-bye Guru. Or now I become the Guru, I become God. I take help from Guru, God, and then I become God, and then I don't need God anymore. I think there's another pastime in this regard when Prabhupada wanted to teach this principle, and one time he fell. I don't know if it was he fell or he was about to fall into the Ganga or down some little hill, and Jayapataka Maharaj grabbed Prabhupada and pulled him up, and then after that Prabhupada pushed him, pushed him down the hill or into the Ganga. And then Prabhupada said, that is Mayavad philosophy. What a way to learn it, huh? This is a Mayavad philosophy. You take help from someone, and then you push them away as if they're insignificant. This is Mayavad philosophy. So Krishna doesn't like that mentality. So he set up this standard, that we have to approach the devotee without duplicity, not simply thinking them as a means to an end. If we have that approach, then Krishna may agree to reveal so many things to us. But without that, he will not trust us. He's trusting to protect us with this responsibility because he sees they are surrendered to him and they are also obedient to their father. That is what's being particularly pointed out. So he wants to see that Vishnu, Supreme Lord, likes that standard. And if we're not following the standard, then we can hardly expect to get that much genuine spiritual revelation. So that's the point. I didn't prepare, so these are the things I could think of immediately by seeing the purport. Does anyone want to ask anything about that? Yeah. I don't know. You tell me. I am not all-knowing. Everyone's got different psychologies, so I think you're more fit to tell me the answer than I am to tell the answer. Why is it so difficult to follow simple instructions? Anyone want to say? We know very well. Ego.
The first thing I can think of is that it's my understanding that Guru will give an instruction based on the devotee's attachment, specifically go against it. It's not like they're giving any instruction.
Oh, so this is true. One reason is because of attachment. Are there anyone has any other insights? A lack of love. Yeah, so therefore material attachment. It's not a primary rule. Any instruction. Very difficult, yeah. Viraragabhaya krodha manmaya mamapashritaha bharavo ganatapasa putama bhavamagata. Krishna says there are many persons who develop love for him, but they had to overcome 3 obstacles: attachment, fear, and anger. So they're not easy obstacles to overcome. Attachment, fear, and anger. So the attachments, we know so many attachments we have. Big obstacle. Fear, Prabhupada particularly highlights, and I can see now, I've been recently reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I can particularly now really appreciate Prabhupada's purports are really profound. Yeah, it's really profound. The fear, Prabhupada describes as the fear of being a person again. And all it entails what it means being a person, and particularly a subordinate person. The idea of service, eternal servitude. Because the whole concept, the bodily concept of life is very powerful and very hard to dismantle, and it's very subtle. So even when we hear spiritual, even when things are spiritually defined for us, it is filtered through the bodily concept, and therefore we come out with the wrong conclusion. So for example, we hear that we need to do devotional service and we need to attain love of God. But then the way the love of God and the path of bhakti becomes understood when filtered through the bodily concept is another means of enjoyment. That's how it becomes comprehended. So when I think of spiritual reality and all these things, it's basically, like I often joke, it's an eternal Swargaloka. Basically Somarasa and Apsaras. Even one of my friends, when he first saw the picture of Krishna and the Ashtasakis, when he first saw this picture, and someone told him that this is a spiritual world. So when he saw that, he was like, wow, that's nice. He talked like this. He shared this with me one time. Then he started telling all his friends, when you go to the spiritual world, there will be many gopi attendants. And he thought this is the spirit. And then he was going around telling this thing, and the voice said, no. Only Krishna, and you become one of them. He became somewhat disheartened. Anyway, my point is that because the bodily concept is so powerful, that even when we hear spiritual instructions, it gets filtered through the bodily concept of life. And therefore, we have so many misconceptions as a result. Therefore, it is mentioned that the stage of hearing, that's called Shravanam Dasha, has to go on for a long time. Because to properly conceptualize everything is going to take a little bit of time because of the strong influence of the bodily concept of life. Even when one is surrendered to Krishna, the fragrance of the bodily concept of life still manipulates the living entity. Just like hing bottle. You have hing bottle and you clean the bottle of all the hing. And even when you scrub it with soap, still strong hing smell will be there. The fragrance. So similarly, even if we are surrendered to Krishna, this is the purport given in the Tate Nukampam Sukshamikshamano verse, that famous verse in Bhagavatam, that even when there is surrender, one is completely surrendered to Krishna, the fragrance of the bodily concept of life and the tendency towards enjoying Krishna instead of serving Krishna remains. So therefore, Krishna will put his devotee through tribulation just to remove the fragrance of the bodily concept of life and help us gain a full foothold on the realization that actually we're servants of Krishna through thick and thin. Asishava padaratam panashramam adarshanam marmahatam korotuva. That verse is an expression of the highest devotion. I heard that Prabhupada said this verse is a no business verse, no business relationship. Whether through thick and thin, whether Krishna shall embrace me or make me brokenhearted, trample me. In either case, I am his servant. So Krishna wants to help us get a strong foothold in that conception. So therefore, tribulation serves as a very great facilitator of that conception. Vidaragabhaya Kroda, Manmaya Mamupashritaha. There are many who develop love for me, who took full shelter of me after crossing over attachment, fear, and anger. Even anger with our own anarthas. Sometimes devotees become intolerant of their own bad qualities. And before, when we first come, we thought we were, Mahabhagavatas. Maybe not Mahabhagavatas, but near that, almost attaining that. Then after a few months of practice, okay, I'm not a Mahabhagavata, but I'm a Shuddha Bhakta, a little bit down. Then after that, it's like, okay, maybe I'm a Madhyamadikari. And a little bit now, okay, I'm a neophyte, I accept it, I'm a neophyte. But I'm the top of all the neophytes, I'm the best of all the neophytes. Like that, and then after a little bit more time, you start to think, maybe I'm a demon. After hearing some more, definitely I'm a demon. we get that realization. And then after we hear a little bit more, we feel you can get depressed. Like, this is heavy. And then sometimes people want to leave the Krishna consciousness movement. So this anger is there also, this anger where we become intolerant of the actual situation of how we're contaminated, etc. We become so angry. Prabhupada particularly mentions how we get bewildered by various conceptions. They cause bewilderment for us and so on, and we become angry. Therefore, Krishna said, Jata Shadho Makatasu Nirvina Savakarmasu Veda Dukatmakam Kaman Prityage Pi Anishvaraha Tato Ma Bhajata Prito Shradalo Drida Nishchay. Krishna mentions this point, that my devotees awaken faith in my narrations. Jata Shradho Makatasu. He's gained faith in hearing my narration. Nirvina Sarvakarmasu, he's completely disgusted with the material platform. So many bad experiences. He knows it's all nonsense. Veda Dukatmakam Kaman, he knows that everyone's simply doing sense gratification and it's going to certainly lead to misery. Parityagye, he's in the process for renouncing that material life also. Api Anishvaraha, but he cannot give it up. Because he's Anishvara, he's not a controller. He's completely, just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I have no transcendental knowledge, I have no devotion, and my body is itself composed of Maya. We're thinking I'll go into solitude and it'll just be me and Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said the body is itself Maya. No need for Maya to come walking in. The body is itself Maya. Should really start influencing. No need for description. We all know very well. The body is itself composed of Maya. So Krishna says, Anishvara, he's not a controller. So even though he has faith, he's disgusted with the material platform, he knows sense gratification will lead to misery, he's in the process of renouncing that material existence also, still he is falling down sometimes. So it can be disheartening. So Krishna's advice is that my devotee should remain happy. He should remain happy, and continue to worship me with determination and faith. And even though sometimes he's doing sense gratification, unavoidable, he sincerely repents it and continues to remain. This is why Sadhu Sangha is so important. Because when we are getting depressed, another devotee will be strong. And then they will help to keep us from drifting off in the strong current of Maya. Is there anyone else want to ask anything else? Attachment, fear, anger. This is I was thinking. That verse came to mind. Bharavo Gena Tapasa. Yeah. I gave a short class. I ended quite early. Thought I would Vamanadev. You were telling the pastime. So I thought I would share some verses about the Vamanadev Leela that are very inspiring. Oh, Jiva Goswami said, I didn't bring any material for that. So we can maybe discuss that in the evening program. Yeah, you want to say something?
On the point of, devotees being depressed and everything, it seems that Krishna puts quite a difficult challenge before the devotee.
He does.
And I'm wondering if, because he responds to desire, if he does offer any ways less challenging.
No.
So he doesn't respond back.
He may. He's free to do as he likes. He's the Supreme Lord. I read something for you from the Bali Maharaj Leela. Srila Rampa Maharaj also read. I'll reread it because I'm sure we've all forgotten by then, thanks to the influence of Kali Yuga. Bali Maharaj passed a severe test put before him by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is further proof of the Lord's mercy toward his devotee. The Supreme Personality of Godhead sometimes puts a devotee to severe tests, like following instructions. Severe. Tests that are almost unbearable. See, same point you were making. Prabhupada is omniscient. One could hardly even live under the conditions forced upon Bali Maharaj. And that's how we also, I can hardly live in this ashram. How much more days I can take of this abuse. That Bali Maharaj endured all these severe tests and austerities is the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord certainly appreciates the devotee's forbearance, and it is recorded for the future glorification of the devotee. This was not an ordinary test. As described in this verse, hardly anyone could survive such a test, but for the future glorification of Bali Maharaj, one of the Mahajans, the Supreme Personality of Godhead not only tested him, but also gave him the strength to tolerate such adversity. The Lord is so kind to his devotee that when severely testing him, the Lord gives him the necessary strength to be tolerant and continue to remain a glorious devotee. That's Prabhupada's purport. All 9. It's a nice purport. It's a go-to verse, a go-to purport. The Lord can do whatever he wants. But if he shall be putting us through some tests, he also gives capacity to tolerate it. That's a fact. But if we're totally hell-bent on our, just like sometimes one may pray to the Supreme Lord knowing what the answer already is going to be. Just like I read that thing from Bhaktisiddhanta last night also. Bhaktisiddhanta said that thing also. That we often think that we are obliging the Lord by our prayers. Bhaktisiddhanta said that. That's a fact. So, just like sometimes someone may go up to someone, a guru or something, and they already know what the answer is going to be. Guru Maharaj, I want to do this, and they know what the answer is going to be. So, of course, such a disposition means that one will suffer if the answer comes another way. So similarly, we have that tendency in our approach to the Supreme Lord. We already know how the Lord is going to respond. Therefore, we are not qualified to join the rasa dance. Prabhupada was saying this. In that chapter where we read on Janmashtami, Prabhupada was saying that. He said, actually, it is a fact that everything that's going on in this material world is the Supreme Lord dancing with us. Prabhupada said this thing in the Purva. It was quite interesting. I read it. So we don't like the rasa dance. Krishna is a very unpredictable way of moving. Therefore, it's called Tribhangi. He's bent in 3 places, unpredictable, crooked, like that. And one is not, if one cannot, I've been saying this thing to a few devotees recently, that we have to interest ourselves with Krishna on this plane before we can think to interest ourselves with Krishna on the other plane. And both planes, Krishna is dancing with the devotee. In both planes, he's dancing. But we don't understand how he's dancing here. We'd not be able to comprehend what's going on up there also. So Krishna gives severe tests, so-called severe tests, or actually severe tests. He gives the power to overcome them also. If we are interested in his service. But if we're not interested in his service, then we don't have access to that empowerment. Because we're not actually interested in service, we're actually interested in our own enjoyment. So then we don't get access to that empowerment. It is available, anyone can take it. But because there is more interest in our enjoyment than serving Krishna, then we have no access to it. And we shall feel weakened. Therefore, sadhu sangha is prescribed. That is the hope. Anyone else wants to say anything? Add anything? Comment anything? Question anything? Yeah.
Lastly, that last verse you mentioned, so Krishna's happiness and light expressed, is that like outside of the general principle of watering the root and everything benefits? Because generally we understand that Krishna's happiness because the heart is really happy. But sometimes clearly, we're asked to serve a certain way, we're literally.
Yeah, that's because, again, this is due to the influence of the Bali concept. We don't have proper understanding of benefit also. Because benefit always means, when you hear like the word prosperity or benefit, it creates a certain type of image for the living entity. So we also are confused about what that is. Just like if I have a good wife, I'm prospering. This is called prosperity. Good wife, good house, good sex life, good eats, prosperity. Most jivas think like that. It's a fact. And then what is not prosperity? If I don't have all these things, then I'm not prospering. So therefore, Krishna is, by watering the root of the tree, one gets supremely benefited. That's a fact. But then now we have to reconceptualize what it means to be benefited. Just like this was coming out when I thought I would get a chance to read. Doesn't look like I'll get a chance to read it. And we can read it throughout the day sometime. But Bali Maharaj is praying to the Supreme Lord, how the Lord is taking everything away from him just to benefit him. Just to actually benefit him. But no one would think like that. I told this story before when I was on book distribution, and Raivatinananda Prabhu would put pictures of Jagannath all over his cart. He was pretty eccentric. And we would go down the hallway chanting Jai Jagannath really loud, and I would be partially suffering, because it was kind of humiliating. And we got off at Washington's subway, and right when we got off, one guy was like, "Who's that?" Obviously, you can tell Christian. "Who's that?" And we were like, "That's Jagannath." He was very eccentric. So he spoke, "That's Jagannath," like very enthusiastic. And "What has Jagannath done for you?" Jesus gave me a house, Jesus gave me a wife, Jesus gave me a car. And so he went down a list of all the things. And he said, Jagannath took all those things away from us. That's what he did for us, So then the guy, he got bewildered, It was bewildered. Because their whole concept of prosperity is reversed. Ishare petasha viparyoyo ashmitihi. When the living entity is turned away from Krishna, the first punishment is viparya, a reverse conception of life. So that which is a source of misery, he thinks to be a source of pleasure. That which is entangling, he thinks to be a source of freedom. That which is shadow, he thinks to be substance. This is the first punishment of turning away from God, a reverse conception of life. So therefore, it's hard to bring it back around, turn our face back toward the Supreme Lord and get the proper conception. And this is the limit. We've been punished. It's a fact. We have a reverse conception of life. So like that, he was thinking, just same story, but another devotee, his name was, from Atlanta, Krishna Smarana Prabhu used to tell this story a lot. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Prabhu or something, from Atlanta. Someone was interviewing him, and they were like, well, are you married? Oh, no, I'm married. And I'm not married then. Well, what do you do? Oh, I take, cold showers. Do you have a house? No, I don't have a house. Do you have a car? No, I don't have a car. Like this, they were going down. So then the reporter asked him, well, how can you be happy? He said, because I don't have those things, I am happy. And the reporter got bewildered, because reverse conception of life. So we have to acknowledge that we're struggling. The struggle is not with so much the circumstance, but the struggle is with the perception of it. And our perception of it is due to the conception of it. Conception and perception are probably the same word. According to your conception, you perceive things accordingly. So the struggle is not so much with the atmosphere, but more with our perception of it due to our various misconceptions. So we have to admit that this is the first stage of surrender, dainya. Have the humility to admit. It's like the whole mood of Bhakti Talk Course, Dainya prayers is admitting, this is my life, I wasted it. He's admitting. Prayer after prayer after prayer, just admitting, these are all my bad qualities. He admits. So we have to admit, this first stage of surrender, admit that I'm struggling with false perceptions, misconceptions. I admit. And let the medicine do its thing during the process. Hare Krishna. Yeah, it is easy to say that when we're from the detached position. When you're in the attached position, your knowledge is blocked. Understand? Just like Dhritarashtra is a man of knowledge. He's not an idiot. As soon as he heard from Vidura, he immediately went for liberation. And he knew how to do it. No one instructed him anything. He already knew how to do it. That means he's a man of great knowledge. But when you're in the attached position, your knowledge is blocked. So you'll find that that same statement that you made just now, when you're in that position, you will not be able to understand. And now I will say the same verse to you. Krishna says in Gita that, passion, happiness and passion, and you'll not be able to comprehend because you're in the attached position. When you're in a detached position, you can see it a little bit better. Therefore, we have to approach Guru. Because they're in a detached position, they have clarity. So you'll notice this as you're going practicing more and more and more, that the same knowledge that you will use to help give clarity to so many people, that same knowledge does not help you in the same situation. It won't help you because you're attached. So therefore, even when we're getting so many proper conceptions, because the fragrance is there to, again, move into the attached position, therefore Sadhu Sangha prescribed for this reason is a given prescription. Understand? In other words, understanding so many things in the Bhagavatam class is only slightly helpful. Only slightly helpful. Now, we hear every day in order to reinforce the spiritual conceptions, but they're only slightly helpful in the practical arena. We have so much experience with that. Every single day we have experience with that. Some of us are aware of it, some of us are not. But Bhagavatam, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya must go on for reinforcing concepts, but it's only a little bit helpful in the practical arena. In the practical arena, we actually require so much support, primarily from devotional Sangha in the practical arena. Otherwise, no question of, acting on these things. No question. Even someone will tell you, you have to follow the Guru. Those same conceptions which you would have appreciated will piss you off. When some devotee is telling you, the same conception which you liked in the class that you were able to get, that same thing will make you more angry when you hear it. I already know all that. Therefore, you find sometimes it's easier to preach to non-devotees than devotees who already think they know so many things. And those who are non-devotees, you can more easily move them to a particular position. Whereas, like, let's say, don't mind, I hope they won't mind, like our men and the youth, for example, is like trying to drag an anvil, you know? Because they've been hearing these things since time immemorial, from their births, you know, Mars has been nicely training them. So it's like trying to drag an anvil, you know, because they're very attached. And they've already heard all these messages before. So if you try to tell them those things at time, then the anvil becomes 20 pounds heavier. Oh, and then you tell them again, it becomes 50 pounds heavier. I'm not moving at all. Understand? In other words, anyway, the comment is appreciated. I wanted to point out this point, though, that therefore it's very hard to instruct. Because the Guru will know if I tell him this thing now, he'll not accept, he'll become angry. And then he'll make offense. Then he'll go down. So it is not such an easy thing. You know, therefore, like devotees, they come new, they think, oh, I know so many things, Bhagavad Gita, now I'll just preach. But they don't understand how to preach. You know, it's such a subtle thing. You have to, first of all, be very attentive to the person. You have to be quite devotionally inspired to understand what's going on with their consciousness, what to say, what not to say. You know, someone's mother just passes away, neophyte devotee goes, Dehi nosmi yatha dehi komaram yovanam jara. Try to understand, you know. And then the person is like, where's my gun, you know? I'm going to shoot this guy, you know. He's neophyte, he doesn't know. Yes, that is a true statement. You have told the truth. But you're not telling it in an effective way. Now they become upset. They become inimical to Krishna also. So, you know, it is not so easy just to bluster off something, you know, some points from the mouth and, you know, think that we're helping the living entity. It takes so much of thoughtfulness. This is my ultimate appreciation for Srila Prabhupada Maharaj. When we ask him a question, you never see him like spitting out answers, you know. Maharaj is, you think that, did he forget the question sometimes? Did he forget? Maybe I'll ask it again just to refresh the memory. Because Maharaj is like extremely thoughtful person. He doesn't just bluster. Therefore, whatever he says, anything, you get some faith in it because he's not just speaking fast. You think, oh, he's really thought about it. Then he speaks something. But we are exactly opposite of that. Even before the person's finished his question, we're giving an answer to it. And then he'll say, well, that wasn't my question. Anyway, I was just helping you out. We get ourselves entangled in this way. So we have to learn from our spiritual masters, you know, how to do all these things, you know. It is not so easy just giving some answers like that. Oh, happiness in the beginning, and the passion is like poison in the beginning. It is not so easy. You think they don't know that already? They know already. But if they're in that position, that might not be the right thing to say. And again, it could be the right thing to say, but you need to be quite thoughtful and quite spiritually inspired, spiritually empowered. Understand? So we have the tendency to do that sometimes, just pass off comments without... I'm not criticizing, the comment was a good comment. I'm just saying this tendency is there to just pass off a comment, you know, without considering the thoughtfulness that it actually takes and the spiritual empowerment that it takes to give, you know. This is the hardest thing about giving class. And Mother Donna Kelly said this also to me the other day, that giving class is easy. The class part is easy. You can just, you know, bluster off anything. But when the questions start coming, that is the challenging part. That is the extremely challenging part. When you're in the neophyte position, you feel like, yeah, bring it on. Any questions? You're like very blissful. And when you get a little bit more mature, you're like, any questions? you how you say, internally prepare yourself. You have to internally prepare yourself. Are there any questions? And then it's like this whole internal preparation. You don't know what's going to come at you. Someone may say, I don't appreciate anything that you say. You know, this. And then immediately the neophyte says, well, Shastra says, and you know, you just... Yeah, it takes a lot of preparation, understand? I'm saying this because of what I told you the other day on Radhastami. Yeah.
Sustain
most people degrade from goodness to passion. So they may start an activity, it may look like poison in the beginning, and when they degrade to passion, it's also poison at the end. So they don't get any rasa from such activities because they're degrading. Because the modes of nature are constantly changing. So the practitioner has to come to and maintain goodness. So then, as we were saying, the perceptions and conceptions change. So you will see the difference in one activity and derive pleasure for something that others may not find the same pleasure in.
That's a nice point. That's a nice point. All right, Charya, you want to add a comment also? Question? That's all right. Anyone else wants to say anything? Okay. So, no Vamana Dev today. His prayers are very nice. So if you want to look at them, 8th Canto, chapter 22, text number... Oops. I meant for it. Yeah, I forgot. Anyway, you can read the whole chapter. How about that? It's a good chapter. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.